Why, hello, hello. Welcome to the 11 a.m. Monday morning marketing webcast. I am your host, Chris Bernard. I hope your weekend was absolutely stupendous, especially coming off a holiday weekend. Hopefully, some of you have recovered. Um, so let's get down to it. Today, I'm going to talk about something that's often misunderstood and certainly not applied as often as it should be, and that is how to make press releases work. Um, we come across a lot of companies that do press releases, and typically, hiring executives, new products that come out, all those kind of things. And usually, those are filtered through a couple of different people, maybe even a couple of different departments, approved and then put live and news area of a website, which is great, except a couple things. In many cases, I'd say in 85% of the cases, there's no understanding or no deliberate effort to figure out who that target market is and advantages to them having this bit of information. And then the third component of that is the keywords that they might be searching for. What do we want them to do, right? So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that today. Just to cover a little bit of the basics. How do you know press releases are working? Depends on the goal. That's a question we get often, because a lot of times companies will spend a lot of effort actually doing the press releases, and they just kind of sit there. And so often, are they working, right? So what was the call? Who is the target market? What is the call to action that you want to drive from that? Whether that's to download a white paper, go visit another area of the website, maybe certain products or services, executive background, salesperson's background. What is the goal of that press release? Okay, so how can you measure that? All right, so I just gave you some indicators that you might be able to use. You would need tracking in place for that. So usually your Google Analytics would be able to help you with that. If there's a special phone number, department, or even a tracking phone number that you can use in order to see if that press release worked. A lot of times press releases have that media contact information. By all means, you can use a software package, a SaaS application like Call Tracking Metrics or other call tracking technologies. What's the other one we use? I forget. Call Tracking Metrics is the one we use now. We have a legacy system we kind of use too, but it's out there. We use it. But in all honesty, you need calls and clicks tracked, right? That's at the end of the day, the most important thing. Hopefully this is going. Yeah, I think it is. Always want to make sure. So press release is working. Another way you can identify a press release are actually working is not only looking at the analytics to see what traffic is there and that next step that people actually use to again, engage. But you could also use a technology. I'm gonna pull it up here in just a moment. Called PR Web. If you guys haven't used it, I'll show you some of the kind of benefits behind it. But think about what a press release is going to do, right? If you understand the who, right? So you've done a market plan, your team has got together and said, okay, we're just hired this new executive. What kind of things does she bring to the table, and how does that help our organization reach X, Y, or Z, marketing persona people, right? So ultimately it solves your customer's need at one point. That's why you brought this executive level in, because she's really good at, let's say, 3 things. There's a reason why you brought her in. And she's going to be connecting 2 out of those 3 profiles. She's going to make the end customer's life better somehow. So now that you understand that, your press release looks quite a bit different, right? In terms of the actual, just by doing that simple adjustment in your brain and the team's focus. I'm also going to then talk about keywords here. So if we understand, because we've done our marketing research, we understand who we're talking to, we understand the benefits that this decision, this news piece has blessed the end result customer with, we can now create or generate a press release that has some substantive value to them, and we can use that to promote, right? The press release shouldn't just freaking sit on your website. It should actually help you promote. Any effort that you do should help you promote. So part of that understanding is now you've got 2 out of the 3 pieces, right? You understand who you're trying to target. You understand what's interesting, what they care about. Now you just need to work through that one little piece there called the keywords. We already talked about Keyword Insight, where you build out millions of key terms. Don't use the estimator tool from Google, except to build out massive keyword lists, and then test it in Google. So you may be setting 100,000 or 200,000 keywords that are appropriate to your business active in Google AdWords, with no bigger purpose than to figure out which actual words will generate the greatest amount of impressions, because Google's estimator tools are designed to make Google money, not to necessarily show you the best impressions or the number of impressions in your target area, whatever that looks like. So we've already kind of talked about that before. If you are going to attempt that yourself, make sure you do a phrase match or exact match on those keywords. Make sure you turn display ads off and just use the regular search Google AdWords build out. Don't use one of the custom one, the wizard ones. Use that third one, actually, that bottom row all the way to the right, actually, when you open up your dashboard. Use that one, right? Not non-guided, I think is what they call it. Okay. Phrase and exact match. Definitely. Okay. And then you can run your big test at the end of a week. You find, hey, these are the keywords that we should be going after. Maybe not this one, and maybe not this one. But that's again the idea for Keyword Insight. So you've got your piece. You've already got it kind of figured out. You've identified those keywords that are most appropriate. Right? And you've also identified the call to action goals. Now, if you've done this well, you may only need to use that PR piece. Okay? But in some of your cases, the PR piece gets pushed down from on high, divinely, right? From the C brass, the brass level. But tactically that, let's say you're the marketing director, you're like, you know what? We got to build these keywords in there. We got to massage some stuff to make it even better, right? To be able to connect with our guests. Maybe, so if you think about, hopefully you guys can see this. So you got this PR piece that comes from the divine gods. All right, it comes raining down on high. Okay, so it's this beautiful PR piece, which maybe it doesn't consider the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, and the how. Maybe it doesn't consider that. So you need something that connects, right? That connects that with your guest and what she cares about. I'll give her some hair so you can see this. That's why you have people that are much more talented than I with this. So we need something in between to connect with that. Okay, so what you may end up doing is this is going to be posted by some other IT guy out in wherever that is doing this stuff. And that goes on your website on those little tabs over there that says news. Okay. But you can create landing pages for this stuff. And because you know the who, what, when, where, why, and how, you can go ahead and create this page. I need those markers. Remember that one show? It was like it was something to do with reading and stuff like that, but they had the markers that made that sound. I should probably get those. That'd be kind of cool. But anyway, so you're going to go because you're just awesome in marketing. You're marketing director. I know the C-levels may not get it all the time. C-levels, you need to listen to some of these people sometimes because they can help you with this stuff. Okay, we see this all the time. This piece usually just gets delivered to a lot of marketing departments without any actual correspondence with the people who actually do the SEO and stuff like that. So you understand the who, what, when, where, why, and how. You're going to go ahead and craft this actual piece that is the link, right? Written well. It's optimized for search with your H1 header tags. It has a nice call to action, all that beautiful stuff. And if they want to read more, of course, they can actually go ahead and click into the PR piece, or they can go directly into that news tab or whatever it is. So this is kind of the foundational piece that's required if you're going to do PR and do it well. Again, you may not have to do this. If your team, excuse me, if your executives in your marketing department and sales department, to be honest with you, especially if in B2Bs, are working really well together, okay, this might be done right out of the gate, which is great, okay? You may be able to have a second PR piece approved, okay, by corporate. So taking this and massaging it a certain way as a marketing department or director of marketing, you might be able to create this piece and push it up for approval to the C levels, the executives, or whomever, and say, can I get approval for that? Because ultimately, if this is the optimized piece, this is the one you actually want to push out into the marketplace using things like PR Web and stuff like that. Okay? So there's options there. In all situations, you may not have any. You may not be able to do any of these. You may not be able to do this here. So how do you then take this and get it into something actionable, right? You may have control only over a certain set of creating landing pages. You may be able to do only that right hand, let's say, sidebar elements stuff. I don't know what your situation is. We could ultimately, I'm telling you, the best opportunity is to create the best PR piece right out of the gate. But if you need help figure out what those other options are, you're even having some operational snags in terms of how that works, again, reach out. But if you can't, and this comes down from on high like a lot of companies, you can create this catch piece, the second piece, it's optimized, and push that via PR Web. Because these pieces, although really, really great, will often not have the same distribution potential. And even there's services like PR Web, it won't be whatever. They'll tell you like it's too promotional for whatever it is, or it's not newsy enough, right? So you may have to kind of create that piece. So I hope that answers that question. We got keyword insight. We covered some of the things that we often see in terms of establishing a good PR piece. Let's go ahead and jump into why this is important. So again, if we know the who, what, when, where, why, and how, okay, and we think about that PR piece and what it's designed to do, remember, it all comes back to the customer. And since you've done your job in terms of marketing and advertising, and you know the who you're trying to target, you know what the decision of the company. So again, let's say it's hiring that executive, that top brass executive. You know the reasons why she was hired. Identify those top 3 most important things that are beneficial to the customer, the end result customer, and then create those call to actions, right? Create them in the press release if you can ultimately, so that you're talking to them. Now that's newsworthy. That's something that you can connect, and you can then drive a call to action on, okay? So with that being said, let's go into PR Web, because this is really, really, really good. Okay. Screen 1. There it is. Okay. So this, what stem this? This is actually, it's probably a pretty good example of this. So the CrossFit Games, I haven't looked it up. I think they're actually going on right now. And the reason why I know that is because I'm seeing it actually in my news feed and like Facebook. So I'm starting to see some stuff in terms of some of the people I follow and everything like that. So in fact, it looks like it's June through June 20th. So it's getting through. So semifinals they're starting to drop people that are not necessarily as good. So it looks like social media is causing some interest, right? It's piquing my interest. And I did a search for CrossFit Games 2021, and I see, lo and behold, top stories. A lot of times, guys, these articles will come from newsworthy pieces. PR Web is often shown as a trustworthy source. Yes, you have to pay for it, but these things can stick depending on the topic. Like obviously, CrossFit Games of 2021 is only going to stay around for a short period of time. But if these are procedures, if these are things that have sticking power, I'm thinking we have a client that does that trucking. Like they do those big lowboy trailers, right, for big machines like Caterpillar equipment and stuff like that for construction. Wind turbines is a huge one, right? Specialty, right? Being able to kind of keep with a specialty and stick with it, you could own the spot for literally years. We've seen this time and time again, especially in medical with certain procedures and stuff like that. You can own that spot for years because it's newsworthy. Okay. But the best way to do that is to use that distribution tool called PR Web. So good stuff. You have to think about how news relates to your business. One of the other tools, we should just jump into it. Just trends.google.com. Let's just go look real quick. I haven't done this. It's always usually pretty dangerous to do, but I'm going to go ahead and do CrossFit Games 2021 and use other tools too. I just want to see what some of the other search terms might be trending. Look at that. Okay. So here, boom. Is that newsworthy? Yeah, it was pretty well flat till very recently. Boom. Okay, so my hypothesis was right. Can you use some of this other data related topics? Yeah, maybe. I'm thinking. Okay, you can throw those into a estimator tool and see where the connection is between your stuff, your products and services, and those hot topic news elements. Maybe there is some. If there isn't, find another newsworthy topic. But this is like the perfect curve for that, right? So I'm thinking, I'm thinking apparel, right? Sports related stuff, gym memberships. Gosh, what else? Gym equipment. Go even further. Running shoes, sports activities, right? Summer sports. VBS is coming up. Aquatics. I don't know what some of these activities are for the CrossFit Games. Maybe there's some activities going on. Maybe volleyball, sports activities. Anything that you can kind of connect. You can see where I'm going with this, right? So you take the element and you kind of draw some concentric circles, and it helps to have a whiteboard, but I don't want to get rid of the drawing just yet. So it helps to have those visuals in there to say, yeah, does my product overlap with that? You can see how now news can be connected with what you do a little bit better. So usually tools like this, using the keyword planner tool from Google, using things like if you have a paid tool, we use SpyFu to do keyword research. There's a ton of really, and Web CEO, we use that as well to do keyword research. There's also that Ask, what is it? There's a great tool too. It's, what is it called? Ask. It's not Ask Jeeves. I can picture the actual site. I don't use it that often because the tools that we actually have are pretty decent. I'll have to put it in the show notes if I can remember what it is. I gotta stop being too. So without going further than that, I think you get the idea. Okay. This is PR Web. A lot of the news that you see in your feeds when you do a Google search are often here. Their distribution center works beautifully. They have different, so just so you understand, so you have this PR piece you can actually submit. So you actually go ahead and you purchase the PR piece. There's different ones here. In fact, I'll just pull it up. This might be cart before the horse, but whatever. Basic, I found there's very little value in. Standard, very little value in. Advanced starts getting a little bit more because you've got earned media coverage at this point, which is pretty good. The premium is it worth $100? Yeah, because in many cases, this is really important. This can help you. For that $100, you guys, and by the way, if you do you can usually find discount codes and stuff like that. But we found the $389 package is where you'd likely want to go. Nothing less than advanced though, and the reason why is this earned media. Okay, the social media you can actually push yourself, but in all honesty, test it, find out. Do one press release with it and one press release without it, and based on the analytics from that first one, kind of forecast the benefit potential reach of the second one to see if it's actually worth it. The neat thing about these tools, by the way, for PR Web is you do get analytics back, and it's pretty robust analytics, which will be like, oh my gosh, it showed up on fortune.com and whatever, which is great. If in many cases, if you're a small business, you can be featured on a whole bunch of really cool sites, and then you can use it in your promotional stuff, saying you've been a part of or you were featured on, because literally you've got the link for it. So you can actually say that in very, very plain English at this point. So there's some real advantages to it, if nothing more from a branding aspect. When we talk about this earned media coverage, uh, influencers, and then even the curated networks, so traditional PR firms, news firms, they don't, yes, they do search online. Yes, they do search, but they have tools that pull data and information down. And it's like having a direct feed to a lot of those people. Okay. That is not marketing speak. That's actual real. These people all just try to do their jobs fast and efficiently, right? That's not bad, but it also says that those systems are ones that you need to be a part of. And PR Web is definitely one of those. So that's why they can command $289, $389 per press release, because they're not really doing much work. They built the software for it, but it really is that distribution that's kind of cool. So I don't know if we need to do YPR Web, but search visibility, yes. Online coverage, this one here is really important. Earn coverage, yes. Garner media coverage from journalists and bloggers. This one here, guys, is absolutely huge, and it really is important. You can indeed show up for things like this for literally years if you've done your job well. Okay. Now, granted, the 2001, when 2002 rolls around, it's not going to happen, but you get the idea, I think. PR services, editorial support and feedback, they will tell you if your content sucks. It's not going to work. They will tell you that. You need to fix this, or this is not newsworthy, or this is too salesy. I mean, they're going to tell you that. Which, speaking of the salesy one, does get back to this piece over here, because in PR land, you can't be real salesy, but in this piece over here, you can kind of be some salesy, right? You don't have to be. Don't have to be, but you can be real salesy. Again, always think benefit to end result customer. Please just do that. It's going to be a ton easier on your business. Create the story, share the news, measure performance. And by the way, it is like the measurement tools are really good. Like your top brass is going to go, wow, this is cool. This is amazing stuff. Okay. So try it. Try and get it in that budget. At least run, maybe once a month, right? Not incredibly a lot, but it's going to do a lot of, at the end of the day, if you're generating 4 pieces of good quality PR every single month with what we just talked about, the who, what, when, where, why, and how, and you've done this potentially because you had to, you've got 8 pieces of content that really allow you to shine through a lot of the clutter that's out there. Okay. Pretty good stuff. Traffic details. The analytics is actually very, very, very nice. They even give you the links to the stuff so you can see it and archive it, which is great. And then you can even talk about it if you want in future PR pieces, right? It's very cool stuff. How it works. Did we do that one? Yeah, I did that one. Who uses it? I don't know. These people use it. That's great. So definitely something you want to go through. And by the way, it's really easy to set it up. If you select premium, like it asks you to pay right out of the gate. Select this package. So basically you're paying and then you start building it, and it really is. So I'd recommend, to be honest with you, when you finish the PR piece first, right? Write it around what we talked about, the who, what, when, where, why, and how. So do that first. And then you go ahead and basically submit it. Keep in mind, when you do a PR piece, there's a couple areas that you can build out. One is the content, okay? But the second is when you go through PR Web here, yeah, we'll just write it over here. I think you guys can see if I expand my screen a little bit. Let me turn that one off. Okay, so you don't need the crazy hair lady anymore, do you? Okay, so 3 things. There's a couple things to be thinking about when you do your PR piece. And again, it shouldn't for the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Okay, one is obviously the PR piece itself, right? So we talked about the audience, understand that. But what's the other parts of this PR piece? You're going to have a couple areas. So that image, there's actually in PR Web there, you can upload several images, but at least one good image that captures what's going on. You're going to also have the ability to do, yes, those are quotes. There's a quote area, okay? And it does help break up the page a little bit in terms of its look and feel, but create a good one, right? Again, you only have one line to connect with the most important target customer in your business. What's the quote that you want to focus in on? Okay. The other one is video. Okay. It allows you to have, can you see? Yeah, you can see that. It allows you to do video in this so that, you can actually go ahead and take the guest to the next level, right? You want to think about the call to actions. Even in the PR piece, the optimized piece is one, but also in the PR piece. What do you want? Who is the guest, and what do you want them to do after they see this? It might be to contact you. Might be remember about that phone number. So again, yes, you have really cool tracking in PR web, but you have to use your own analytics. So use your Google Analytics or whatever analytics tool you use, so people did something or submitted a form or whatever the case may be, and then call tracking. Right? I was going to write something different there, but that's fine. Call tracking. So make sure that you're actually able to kind of quantify outside of PR web the actual return on buck, because a lot of times PR web will focus on the distribution channel. So you'll see X number of impressions and all this great stuff. But in personal experience, the argument for that is great. I got all this great number visibility stuff, but nothing dropped in the bucket. You need to make sure that you're trying to prove the dropping in the bucket. That's what's going to allow you to keep that budget coming in for the next one and the next one and the next one. Okay, and growing that business. So a couple things to be thinking about here in terms of that PR piece before you even kind of set ink. So again, who, what, when, where, why, and how, and now start laying out that press release. When you do this, I guarantee you're going to see, because you've done your job, because you understand the keywords, because you understand who you're targeting and what she cares about, and you've written that you baked it right on into the PR piece itself, and potentially written that jump piece, we'll call it that jump piece, that link in there. You may or may not need 2 separate documents, who knows? But because you've done that, your press release is going to go farther than you can ever imagine just by putting it freaking in the news area of your site where no one ever sees it. And that's just from an SEO standpoint and a PR web distribution standpoint. You can use social media and things like that now to link to either that link content or that PR piece content directly, which again, because you've targeted the right person, knowing what her needs are and caring about those things, you can make that go exponentially further. So I hope this week's tip will really help you guys, and have a great, fantastic rest of your week. All right, bye-bye.